think today's the 8th. Hey, Cassie's being crazy today. Don't want anything on my mat except for me. So, Niyama Wednesday. I want, like we're gonna stay. Here's the thing. You don't have to consciously apply. What is happening over here? I've got a zipper that is just causing me problems. All right, 1 second. Had to put Cassie indoors. She's just too excited right now. And I don't want more mud and filth on my mats. But that's neither here nor there. Let's get closer, shall we? So, Niyama Wednesday. I want to talk about a yama, one of the yamas, ahimsa. I'm having a time getting things wrapped up. Hi, it's in the low 30s. It's cold. December 8th. Ahimsa, nonviolence. How do we reconcile something like nonviolence? You know, I just want my phone to stay up, right? How do we reconcile something like nonviolence if we have trained in or plan to train in martial arts or self-defense classes? And how do the niyamas play into any of this? It's a good question, and it's complex. It's a complex question with complex answers. We don't need to actively apply the niyamas for them to apply. It's like, it's cold outside. You don't have to acknowledge that it's cold outside for it to be cold outside. The benefit of intentionally practicing the niyamas is intentionally practicing the niyamas. Just like if you do a couple of yoga postures versus doing them with a good warm-up and with an intent for self-reflection, right? There can be a lot of gains and there can be a lot discovered if we set our intention to do so. So, going back to ahimsa, whether we're intentionally looking through the lenses of the niyamas or not, they're still there. And in martial arts, you have, you no matter what happens, at the end of the day, you're training in a discipline that is based in violence, right? Martial is war, essentially. So how do you cope? How do you reconcile? How do you get these beliefs on the same page? There's an old adage, and I think it was Funakoshi Sensei who formally brought karate from Okinawa to Japan. Originally, Matobu was asked to do it. Matobu was like, I'm just a farmer, dude. I'm not here for this stuff. I'm not the guy. Funakoshi was more of a scholar, a learned man. Learned? And he brought karate to people in Japan. Okinawan karate eventually evolved into Shotokan karate. That's neither here nor there. I think it was Funakoshi who said there is no first punch in karate. In karate. I could be wrong, and I probably should have looked that up before I went and started yammering my jaws on YouTube. That does not necessarily translate into you can't punch somebody first. Even if we look at our judicial system, if someone has made it clear that they are about to harm you, that their intention is to harm you, and you strike out at them, that is not considered the first punch. You might think this is legal loophole jargon. It's not. This is a very important concept. If someone has decided to do you harm, and you know it, then for you to allow it to happen means that you are not practicing nonviolence toward yourself. And we must begin practicing nonviolence with ourselves. Sooner or later, right? Maybe not begin as in start. Like the first person I'm nonviolent towards is myself. Sooner or later, we learn to practice nonviolence with ourselves. It's a great place to start. Not everybody can get there. And that, I think as a side note, I think that until you can practice nonviolence truthfully with yourself, and truth is another yama, until you can practice nonviolence with yourself, you can't fully practice it with others. So you might start with other people and then bring it to yourself, and then once you truly do it with yourself, then you can authentically bring it to others. It's a circle, as many things in yoga are. Back to violence and ahimsa and first punches in karate. So I want to reiterate, if someone is if somebody has the intent to do you harm, and you lash out at them, that's not a first punch in karate, nor is it necessarily violence in a way that absolutely infringes upon ahimsa. And it's very simple movement to consider purity of thought, discipline, contentment, reflection, and surrender within that context. Like, surrender, I think, is one that is often misunderstood. When you surrender to that moment, you're not surrendering to the person who's going to hurt you. You're surrendering to the idea of their intent, right? You might have a person who comes at you, and they get in your face, and they come at you, and they're yelling, and they're spitting, and their fists are balled, and you try to de-escalate. You walk out of the building, you walk out to the parking lot, you do all that you can. And the fact of the matter is, at some point, you're either going to surrender to the fact that they intend to do you harm, in which case you may need to defend yourself with violence, or you're going to surrender to the fact that they intend to do you harm, and you're going to be harmed. Surrender in this context, in the context of the niyamas, it doesn't mean giving up. It means giving up to an idea, giving up to an intent, giving up to a space. It means surrendering for a moment. Surrendering to an incredibly tasty food. Surrendering to a joke. Surrendering to the weather. It's a continuous series of tiny surrenders that are beneficial and help us grow. Having trained for a very long time, I'm more apt to surrender to the notion that they intend to do harm and that maybe I need to do something about that, rather than let them harm me. And that's not everybody's cup of tea. Except it is. Every living thing on the planet tries to defend its personal space, whether you believe it or not. Hey, bird. Deep, 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 deep down, our amygdala, right, will react with fight or flight. And there's some others. Prune, I think, is the other one. Appease? Prune? I hadn't actually intended to get this deep into this, so I didn't look this one up. Fight or flight or please? Anyway, honestly, please is a version of fight. It's an active, and it's an active reaction to danger. Anyway, endeavor to improve your character, strengthen your spirit through continuous practice, respect others and be courteous, seek harmony, practice humility. Did I get them all? And I gotta count them when I say them. Endeavor to improve your character, defend the way of honesty and loyalty, seek harmony, practice humility, respect others and be courteous. I'm forgetting one. Now I gotta do it again. All right, we have endeavor to improve your character, strengthen your spirit through continuous practice, respect others and be courteous, defend the way of honesty and loyalty, seek harmony and practice humility. That's the Dojo-kun. And on closer inspection, or introspection, you can notice, you can see, that was supposed to be a smile, and I just happened to see that it was not a smile. Upon closer introspection, you can see the similarities and the crossover between yamas and niyamas and the Dojo-kun. Some other thoughts to be considered, not explicitly in the Dojo-kun, but implied heavily. Free yourself from desire and truth. Free yourself from desire can be a little confusing. It's like, what is this dude nibbling? This little bird is eating leaves off this plant, and it's ridiculously adorable. I need to put food in my bird feeder. So, free yourself from desire is like the story of this monk who is speaking with a student, and the student knows that the monk is waiting for some very important news, and the news comes in the form of a letter. And the monk puts the letter to the side, and the student says, hey, I know that you're really into this and you've been waiting for a long time for this news. And the monk says something to the effects of, the letter will wait, I'm talking to you now. The simplest interpretation is to be here now. Don't put your joy somewhere where it isn't. Put your joy tomorrow, right? Put your joy to later. I'll be happy when I get a new job. I'll be happy when I get a haircut. I'll be happy when I lose 20 pounds. I'll be happy if I lose 5 pounds. I'll be happy later. It's the simplest explanation. Don't wait to be happy. Find bliss right now, today, this moment, this second. Find bliss being freezing cold, sitting outside on a mat, in a blanket, watching tiny little birds eat little leaves. So there you have it. It's a pretty involved one. I'm going to refill the bird feeder before I start my practice. I've decided, because this video is so long, that I'm going to do this as a picture-in-picture. So, thanks for joining me this morning. Namaste.